Have you ever looked at a behavior, maybe in yourself or in someone else, and just immediately slapped a label on it? Defensive, closed off, maybe even toxic? We all do it. But what if those labels are completely missing the point? What if they aren't character flaws at all? Okay, let's get into this.
Just think about that for a second. That really deep feeling that when it all comes down to it, you're the only one you can truly count on. It's an incredibly common feeling, and honestly, it's the perfect place to start if we want to understand where some of our most powerful and often misunderstood instincts actually come from.
So this is the big idea we're going to unpack today. We're shifting our whole perspective. We're going to take what society often just writes off as a toxic trait and look at it through a completely different lens, as a powerful and at one point absolutely necessary survival skill. This isn't about excusing behavior, right? It's about understanding where it was born. To really get this, we have to go back, way back, to the beginning, to when our brains were first getting wired, because so much of how we react to the world today is really just an echo of what we learned we had to do to survive yesterday. This right here is the fundamental rule. It's rule number 1. Before a kid learns to read, before they learn to ride a bike, their brain has one single top priority mission: stay safe. It's this brilliant, super adaptable organ that will do whatever it takes to protect itself in whatever environment it finds itself in. Okay, so what happens when that environment isn't always safe or stable? When the ground underneath a child's feet feels like it could just give way at any moment. Well, this is where the story of these survival skills really kicks off. And listen, an unpredictable environment doesn't have to be some huge dramatic thing. It can be really subtle. It could be parents who are warm and loving one minute and then cold and distant the next. It might be feeling like you have to carry the weight of adult problems. Or maybe just learning really early on that asking for what you need is, well, it's a gamble. The brain logs every single one of these things as a potential threat. So, how does this actually work? How does the brain adapt? Well, when it's faced with all this unpredictability, it doesn't just throw its hands up and quit. No way. It gets creative. It starts writing new code, new programming to navigate this tricky world as safely as it possibly can. And a lot of times, this leads to a state called hypervigilance. Think of it like this. Your brain has an internal radar system, and it just cranks the sensitivity dial all the way to max. You can't really relax because you are constantly scanning the horizon, not for predators, but for a subtle shift in someone's tone of voice, a weird look, any sign of potential emotional danger. In this process, it's actually really logical. Step 1, the brain feels unsafe. Step 2, it desperately searches for a way to get some control. Step 3, the solution it finds is heightened alertness, constant scanning. And when you practice that over and over and over, it becomes the default setting. It's not a conscious choice anymore. It's a built-in automatic shield. But, and this is a big but, here's where it gets complicated. That shield was built for a very specific battlefield. What happens when the war is over, but you're still walking around everywhere carrying this giant, heavy shield? This is the real conflict, isn't it? What happens when you're an adult? Maybe you're in a safe, loving relationship or you have a stable job, but your brain is still running that old software, still operating as if a disaster is lurking just around the corner. Well, the old skills that kept you safe then start to cause brand new problems now. This quote just nails it perfectly. It's like this. Imagine you hired a bodyguard to protect you when you were little and vulnerable. Smart move. It was totally necessary. But that bodyguard is still on duty 24/7, seeing threats in friendly faces and danger in quiet, peaceful moments. They never got the memo that it's safe now. So that bodyguard's behavior, in your adult life, it looks like this. Pushing away help, that isn't just being defensive. It's a learned belief that it's actually safer to be alone. Refusing to rely on anyone, that's not just hyper-independence. It's a deep-seated fear that you're a burden. And that feeling of never being able to truly relax, that's your brain's radar still frantically scanning for threats that just aren't there anymore. So what do we do with all this? Where do we go from here? Well, it really all comes down to compassion. It's about changing the way we see ourselves and the way we see other people by understanding the why. It's about completely rewriting that label. So now, instead of seeing someone as just defensive, we can see the story behind it. And what a story it is. It's the story of a kid who had no other choice but to learn how to be their own protector, their own hero. The behavior might look the same, but the understanding, that changes literally everything. So, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. What we're so quick to judge as a flaw in someone's character is, more often than not, just the cover of a really profound survival story. It's proof. It's evidence of their strength and just how resilient they had to be.
And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. The next time you notice one of these traits in yourself, or maybe in somebody else, try asking this instead. What story is this behavior telling me? What was it originally designed to protect? And maybe, just maybe, with a little compassion, how can we help that inner bodyguard finally understand that it's okay to clock out?